Hey, my name is Mary Rolfe, and this is my consideration of the role of the liver and pancreas in the digestive system. So we can go ahead and get started. So the functions of the liver and the pancreas. To start off, the liver and pancreas are both gastrointestinal organs. They're both considered endocrine glands, meaning that they secrete their hormones directly into the blood through a duct. Each day, the liver and pancreas and the intestines produce more than 3 liters of necessary secretions for digestion. These secretions include anything from digestive enzymes, bile, bicarbonate, mucus, and the isotonic sodium chloride solution. And then, like I said, all of these are necessary for nutrient digestion. So the 3 of these secretions that I'll be focusing on mostly today are going to be the bile, bicarbonate, and the digestive enzymes. So digestive enzymes are produced by the intestinal epithelium and exocrine pancreas. They release anything from, they release neurohormonal and paracrine signals, all 3 of those. And then the bile is made in the liver and released from the gallbladder to facilitate the digestion of fats. We'll talk a little bit more about bile in a minute. Bicarbonate neutralizes the acidity of chyme that enters the small intestine from the stomach. Mostly comes from the pancreas and is released in response to neural stimuli and secretin. So the definition of chyme, we've studied this before, but it's a soupy substance created as ingested food is broken down by mechanical and chemical digestion. And if you look at the diagram, you can see how close together these organs are. The stomach, liver, pancreas, and duodenum are all extremely close together in proximity, which typically means that they are all functionally connected, and it's necessary that they are this close together. So next we'll look at the liver and a few more functions and facts about that. As you can see, it's located on the right side of the body, just below the diaphragm. It weighs about 3.3 pounds in the average adult, but it is the largest internal organ. The liver is the site of cholesterol synthesis, protein synthesis, hormone secretion, and red blood cell destruction as needed. Red blood cells are typically disposed of if they are old or have or if they have been damaged in processes. The liver also processes nutrients to be absorbed in the small intestine. It is the site of bile secretion from hepatocytes, which are just liver cells. And then the key components of this bile that the liver secretes is bile salts, bile pigments, and cholesterol. So we'll move on to the next slide. Some of the functions of the liver. The liver secretes bile from hepatocytes to aid in fat digestion, which we previously already mentioned. The common hepatic duct transports bile made in the liver to the gallbladder for storage. And then the common bile duct transports bile from the gallbladder to the lumen of the small intestine. So bile salts act as detergent to make fats soluble during digestion and are made from bile acid. So it just makes it more available to be digested. And then another point is that hepatocytes contain enzymes, for example, the cytochrome P450, to metabolize drugs and xenobiotics. This helps to clear them from the bloodstream before they reach systemic circulation. And then a lot of drugs are given orally. Drugs that are given orally are needed in higher doses than if they were given intravenously. Important because whenever drugs are given through IV, they don't have to go through this through this filtering process that oral drugs have to go through in the liver. But IV infusion is more direct and doesn't have to go through this, so a lower dosage is needed to accomplish the same result. And then, as I needed to mention earlier, fat digestion is facilitated by bile salts, and as digestion proceeds, fat droplets form as micelles. And then another point I would like to mention before moving on to the pancreatic structure and function is just a little precursor to this, that most nutrient absorption takes place in the small intestine, and then the large intestine absorbs mostly water and ions. Once the absorbed nutrients go directly to the liver via the hepatic portal system, then they may enter into systemic circulation. Okay, so now we'll move on to the structure and function of the pancreas. So the pancreas contains both endocrine and exocrine epithelial cells. The endocrine secretions typically come from islet cells, and then exocrine secretions from the acini, then into the duodenum via ducts. And then you can see in the diagram on the right, acini secrete pancreatic juice. That's part of the exocrine secretion from islet cells. And then the endocrine glands from the islet cells, they secrete insulin and glucagon. So going back to the exocrine secretions, this includes digestive enzymes and isotonic sodium chloride solution. Secretions are typically stimulated by secretin, CCK, and hydrogen ions in the duodenum. Endocrine secretions, on the other hand, from islet cells include insulin and glucagon. Insulin and glucagon work in opposition to control overall blood glucose levels. Insulin can decrease overall blood glucose levels when needed. So typically after you've had a meal, insulin is the more active of the two. And then if you were to miss a meal, glucagon would work to increase blood glucose levels by breaking down glycogen in the liver. All right, so now we'll move on to see what some of the functions of the pancreas are. Let's see. So the pancreas main function is for enzymatic fat digestion. This is carried out by lipases. And you can see on the right the different endocrine and exocrine functions of the pancreas. However, lipases cannot penetrate the bile salt coating, so it does require a cofactor called colipase in order to digest these fats. And then the next point is that phospholipids are digested by pancreatic phospholipase. And then an important point is that free cholesterol is not digested and is absorbed intact in the digestive system. Fat absorption occurs primarily by simple diffusion, and then cholesterol, which is absorbed intact, has to be actively transported across the membrane. So just looking at another exocrine secretion that the pancreas carries out is amylase, which digests starch to maltose. And then disaccharidases digest disaccharide to monosaccharides, which can then be absorbed further. So that concludes the slideshow points. So now we'll move on to the worksheet that I've prepared. So if you see here, I just created kind of a chart for matching the function of an organ or a characteristic of it to which organ does it, and then we've also have the option for both. So the first one is which of these is classified as an endocrine gland, and that answer is going to be both the liver and the pancreas can be classified as an endocrine gland. The next is that which contains both endocrine and exocrine secretory epithelium. That is going to be the pancreas that contains both, as we've discussed in the slides before this. And then the site of insulin and glucagon secretion, that is going to be the pancreas again. Site of cholesterol synthesis is going to be the liver. And then site of bile secretion, also the liver. Let's see, processes nutrients absorbed by the small intestine. That one's also going to be the liver. And then the site of breakdown of old or damaged red blood cells. Both the liver and the pancreas can assist in this function. And then both of these organs produce about 3 liters of secretory elements per day that we discussed in the second slide. And then in that one is also included the intestinal secretion. So that one actually is the pancreas, liver, and the intestines that collectively secrete about 3 liters of secretory elements per day. And then the last one is which secretes sodium bicarbonate into the duodenum. That's going to be the pancreas. And then that completes my consideration of the digestive system, liver and pancreas functions.